Welcome to my video on using Adobe PhotoshopMix. This is a mobile application from Adobe that allows you to create composites, which are images made up of other images blended together, and lets you do it on an iPad. I've had a lot of success doing this in the media arts classroom, and I wanted to show you how I introduced it to my students. So, I've got my iPad here. I've loaded up PhotoshopMix, and the first thing I'm going to do is press the plus button here on the left, which creates a new project. In this case, although you can get your photos from a number of sources, I've got the two photos that I need on the camera roll, so I'll just tap on that. And the first thing I want to do is I want to select my background, which in this case is the computer monitor. So I've tapped that, and that immediately puts it in, sizes it up perfectly into my project ready to go. Next thing I need to do is I need to create a new layer and put my next picture on. So you can see on the right hand side here, there's a monitor and there's a plus button here. The plus button on the top creates a new layer. So I'm going to press that and go back to the camera roll, and this time select the photo of the student. So at this point what I need to do is I need to get rid of the background. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this. First of all, you need to select cutout at the bottom. And right now it's on add, so I'm adding to a selection, and the brush is on basic. I think I'm going to start off with having the brush on smart brush, and I'm going to try and just use my finger and paint over her body and see how well that works. So I'm just using my finger here, painting over her legs and her feet and her hands. So the smart brush does a pretty good job of finding the edges, not perfect. You can see there's quite a lot of the bench there, and a bit of a head is missing, but that's okay. We can zoom into her head by using my pinch gesture and just slowly and carefully putting some of her hair back in. I'm going to adjust that a bit in a minute. The side of her face looks like it could use some work. There we go. Zooming back out again, pinching out. Okay, so it needs some work. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch from add to subtract, and I'm going to keep on using my smart brush, see how well that will work, and just try and get rid of this plank of wood. And it does a pretty good job there. Let's go around to her fingers and her hands. Does a pretty good job there. I'm going to just zoom in a bit, maybe a bit more. Just get that bit. Oh, I lost her thumb. That's okay, I'll get it back in a minute. Okay, around here. Oh, I've lost her whole hand. Okay, let's switch back to add, and let's go back to where her hand was. Let's get her hand back in there. Okay, I'm going to switch now to the basic brush. The basic brush brushes exactly where you are trying to go. So that's a bit, hang on, go to subtract. That's a bit more accurate than the smart brush. The smart brush can be very useful, but it can also not work very well on the small details. So I'm not going to do this exactly because we don't want to spend all day here, but certainly you want your students to do a nice accurate job. And what you want to tell them is the better job that they do, the more accurate they are with their selecting, the more realistic it looks. If you've got bits of, like you can see here, if you've got bits of background, it's going to look quite fake, and it's going to look very obvious what you've done. So you want to try and hide all of that. So I'm just going around here. Now to move it around like I'm doing there, I'm using two fingers together. Otherwise, if I didn't use two fingers and I used one finger, it would do something like that, which is not what we want. So luckily there's an undo button up here, so I'll click on that and fix that up. I also might fix up her hair here, maybe just smooth it out a bit, even though I'm losing some, just to try and make it look better. Over here, we need to fix up around her feet, just quickly. I'm still using the basic brush here. Might have to paint in a bit of her shoe back in. Go back to minus, so I'm constantly going from minus to plus as I'm going along, fixing up my work. Zooming in often helps for the small details, which is what I'm doing. Just get this bit here. Doing it very roughly, but I think that looks pretty good. Oh, there's a bit over here by her hand that I'll just fix up. There we go. All right, so that looks pretty good. So you'll want to explain to your students that this pattern, the background, this checkerboard pattern is how the app and how Photoshop, the real Photoshop, displays a transparent background, and that's what we want. We want this student on a transparent background so we can put her on top of the computer screen. So I think that looks pretty good. I might just fix up a little bit here. I'm not happy with that. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but I think that'll do. Alright, so when you're finished, there's a tick button here that you press, and then there we go. We can move, oops. Now I just moved around the screen. That is because if you have a look at the layers here on the right, it's the screen that's been selected. So I'm going to undo that, put it back where it was. This time I'm going to select the student on the layer. Now I can move her around how I want. I can pinch in to make her smaller, pinch out to make her bigger, and I'll see how she looks on the screen. I originally wanted to have her on the screen, but this particular photo, I don't know, really lends itself to that. I think it might look better if I put her just on the desk, like that. There we go. Good. Happy with that. So once you've done that, there are other options that you can do. You can crop, you can fill, you can do all sorts of things, but that's basically how you do a composite. And this I was teaching to first and second graders. So these are 6-7-year-olds that were able to do this with various degrees of success, but they certainly understood the concept. So we can go on the left button here, on the left arrow on the top, to go back to the project screen. And there we are, we've got that finished project, and now you can click on the share button and you can send it to wherever you like. In most cases you probably send it to the camera roll, and you could share the students' work from there. So that is how you use Adobe Photoshop Mix. Hope you liked it.